Hey everyone, welcome to today's explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here because, well, today we're doing something a little bit special. We're going to take all those strict grammar rules, the formal vocabulary, those rigid textbook phrases, and we're just going to set them aside for a minute. Instead, we're diving right into the actual heartbeat of street-level Brazilian culture. We're going to take your textbook Portuguese and transform it into authentic, everyday local speech. Let's get started.
Okay, let's dive into this. Want to move past textbook Portuguese and sound like a local? It's a hurdle literally every language learner faces, right? You study so hard, you memorize your verb conjugations, but then you finally land in Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo, and the conversations happening around you sound like a completely different language. But hey, that is the magic of slang. Throughout this explainer, we're going on a bit of a journey through the emotional spectrum of Brazilian slang, from the absolute highest highs of excitement down to the frustrating lows, and finally, right into the warmth of human connection.
Section 1. The highs, ultimate confidence, and hype.
When Brazilians are doing something spectacularly well, they express it with extreme confidence. And our first slang term perfectly captures that exact energy, tirar onda. Now, if you translate this literally, it means something like to take a wave. But in informal conversations, it instantly injects personality into your speech. It basically means showing off, teasing someone, or just doing something incredibly impressive. Let's break down the 3 distinct situations where you'd actually use this. Because this is where the versatility of Brazilian slang truly shines. You use the exact same phrase, but the intention completely shifts based entirely on the context. So you could be rolling your eyes at a friend who's showing off, you could be playfully teasing someone, or you could be cheering a friend on for a massive achievement. Same exact phrase, 3 totally different vibes.
For example, to illustrate that showing off context, you might say, Ele comprou carro novo e tá tirando onda. He bought a new car and is showing off. You can hear that slight playful judgment there, right? He's flexing his new purchase. But what about the teasing context? Well, you might hear someone say, Você tá tirando onda comigo porque eu cheguei atrasado? Like, are you teasing me because I was late? It's just playful mockery. And finally, for doing something genuinely amazing. Ela tirou onda no jogo ontem e marcou 3 gols. She did amazingly in the game yesterday and scored 3 goals. She didn't just play well, she dominated. She tirou onda.
So, let's take it a step further. Imagine that same scenario with the car. You're walking down the street and you see a brand new car. But it's not just nice, it is flawless. It's absolutely perfect. You don't just want to say it's nice, right? You need a word that captures how genuinely mind-blowing it is. So what do you say? You scream. Esquece. Seriously, this is the absolute ultimate hype word in Brazilian slang right now. When something is so extraordinary, so incredibly top tier that there is simply nothing better to compare it to, you just throw your hands up and say, esquece.
Let's break down the actual definition. Literally, esquece means forget it, but you aren't actually telling someone to forget something. No, you're using it to express intense enthusiasm. You're emphasizing that something is so extraordinary, it completely defies comparison. It adds this massive burst of excitement to casual conversations and makes any compliment you give feel way more expressive.
Here's a perfect example of it in action. A festa na praia ontem foi incrível, esquece. The beach party last night was incredible. Forget about it. It wasn't just fun, it was the absolute party of the year. Or, jumping back to our car example from before, you'd say, Esse carro novo, esquece, é perfeito. This new car, forget about it. It's perfect. It's basically the exclamation point at the end of a great sentence.
Section 2. The lows, when things go wrong.
Because, look, life isn't always perfect beach parties and flawless new cars, is it? When reality doesn't quite meet your expectations, your absolute go-to phrase is deu ruim. Literally translated, it means it gave bad, but it's used whenever something goes wrong or just doesn't turn out the way you planned. And what's great about this phrase is its flexibility. You can use it with a sympathetic sigh in a really serious situation or with a slightly humorous kind of defeated shrug when a casual plan falls apart.
Let's contrast the Portuguese phrase with its English equivalent. If you say, perdi voo, deu ruim mesmo, you're essentially saying, I missed the flight, it went really bad. Missing a flight is obviously a major headache, and deu ruim perfectly captures that awful, sinking feeling in your stomach when you watch your plane literally pulling away from the gate without you.
But look at how easily it scales down to a casual, everyday mishap. Tentei fazer o bolo, mas deu ruim e ele queimou. I tried to bake a cake, but it went wrong and it burned. It's a bummer, sure, but it's not the end of the world. And it works perfectly for academics too. Imagine coming out of a brutally tough classroom. Estudamos muito, mas deu ruim na prova. We studied a lot, but the test didn't go well. It really is the perfect, universal phrase for any kind of letdown.
Section 3. Human connections. Building Brazilian relationships.
We've been up, we've been down, but at the absolute core of Brazilian culture is community. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this concept of dar uma moral. Its exact translation is surprisingly tricky because its meaning relies heavily on social context. Generally speaking, it's a versatile phrase used to recognize, support, help, or pay attention to someone. Basically, it's all about giving social currency to another person.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the scenarios. Consider 3 distinct social situations where you'd use this. First, you can use it to formally recognize or support someone's work. Second, you can use it to ask for a quick favor or some help. And third, in a completely different social setting, it can even be used to describe flirting or showing romantic interest. Human connection is the real engine that drives this phrase.
For instance, in an asking for help context, you might say, "Dá uma moral aqui, me ajuda com essa bagunça." Give me a hand here and help me with this mess. But if we look at those other contexts, the phrase morphs beautifully. For recognition, ele deu uma moral pro projeto dela. He gave her project some recognition. He backed her up. Or in a nightlife setting, ela deu uma moral pra ele na festa. She showed interest in him at the party. She paid attention to him.
And speaking of paying attention to someone, our final slang phrase is totally essential for building relationships, trocar uma ideia, literally, to exchange an idea. It just means to have a conversation or share thoughts, typically in a very casual or informal way. Whether you're in a personal setting or even a relaxed professional context, this phrase emphasizes a really open, judgment-free exchange of opinions. It perfectly sets a laid-back, conversational vibe. Like, eles estavam trocando uma ideia sobre música na cozinha. They were chatting about music in the kitchen. Just 2 people casually sharing thoughts. But it can also be used to initiate a more important, yet still approachable conversation. You might tell a friend, "Eu preciso trocar uma ideia com você sobre o que aconteceu ontem. I need to talk to you about what happened yesterday." It invites dialogue rather than demanding it. So from showing off with tirar onda, hyping things up with esquece, dealing with those inevitable setbacks using deu ruim, to connecting deeply through dar moral and trocar uma ideia, you now have the tools you need to step entirely outside the textbook. So I'll leave you with the exact question from our source material. Do you want to sound more like a local? Learn Brazilian Portuguese with us. Take these phrases, get out there, and start exchanging ideas like a true Brazilian. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.